Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
It was just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. That night, we drove back into Letterkenny in the car and the tears just coming down my face saying there's going to be 10, 11 funerals over the next week. I don't know, can I face that?
Eileen Magnier spent over 35 years as RTE's Northwest correspondent, and in that time she covered an incredible number of stories of all different kinds. It was, she says, a very fulfilling job that she loved, but it was also very demanding and unpredictable in nature. It also required Eileen having to report on, frankly, incredibly tragic stories like the Creeslough explosion in County Donegal in 2022, in which 10 people died. This was a part of the job that Eileen took very seriously, as it's so important to cover these stories sympathetically and accurately, but so painful as well, and with consideration to those left behind. Safe to say it takes its toll. And the physical and emotional toll of that work, after over 3 decades, was starting to become very apparent to Eileen. And so, just over a year ago, she decided to retire. And today, she says she has never felt so healthy, so free, and so energised. In this episode, Eileen and I have an interesting chat about her almost 4 decades at the front lines of public service news, the various factors that prompted her to make that very big decision to retire, and the amazing things that she's been doing since retirement. Warning, this episode might just make you want to pack your job in right now and travel the world. It's a new vista on the whole world of retirement. You've been warned.
My father died at 56, so I remember when I got to 56 saying, every year now is a bonus, you know, and I'm just going to make the most of it. And after my sister Teresa died and my aunt, and they just loved travelling, I said, well, I'm just going to keep going now and go to the places that they would have liked to go and places I want to go myself. Because when you get the chance, and if you're healthy enough, it's sinful not to do it. When I was working, it was so intense at times, you didn't have time to exercise. And John, the cameraman I worked with, used to say, oh, we're dashboard dining again. So you'd be going off somewhere, you just grab a sandwich from a garage and a cup of coffee and maybe a bar or something. Yeah. Not good for you.
So you won't find that many people scrolling on Instagram all day on the walk.
Oh, no. I hate when you go someplace and people are just on their phones all the time and they're not enjoying the experience, what they're doing, like concerts or matches or anything like that. Like you'd be walking down the street here and I don't know how people don't kill themselves walking into poles with their phones.
My full chat with Eileen Magnier coming right up. But first, you've probably heard the news that Claire Byrne, it's a bombshell in the world of media. Maybe it doesn't mean that so much to you out there, but it does to us. Claire Byrne is leaving RTE and coming over to this very building, where she spawned from, would you believe it, years ago. Marconi House in Dublin to take over Pat Kenny's slot on News Talk. Big news, not fake news, but very real, very big news. But this has caused major ripples across RTE, and other presenters on Radio 1 are all in a tizzy. So when Eileen was spotted walking in the doors of Marconi House to record this podcast interview, it set some serious tongue wagging in a big way. Hi, you've reached the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Please leave a message.
Hi Eileen, it's Miriam O'Callaghan here. Long time no see. Listen, I've been hanging out a bit in the Hairy Lemon near Marconi House, just keeping an eye on things over there, and I saw you going into the building. How did you score that job? Do you mind me asking how much are they paying you? Please get me in, Eileen, please. I need to get out of this hellhole. I'll do it for less than $250, $240 max. Okay, I'll do anything. I'll even co-present one of those GoLoud podcasts where I talk about doing shots on night out with the girls and stuff. I'll do anything. Joanne Donnelly might even do it with me if she doesn't bag this presidential gig. Bitch, that was for my gig.
How are you? Eileen, Brandon O'Connor here. Listen, just if you could just, Barry Dunn has been doing the cash call up in Marconi House for a long time now. I think it's time they shake it up a bit. Could you put a word in for me, please, for like maybe a good Cork man? I think Barry's a bit hyper, is he? Is he a bit hyper? I mean, the winners need to be brought down to earth a bit, realise that the amount of money can be quite damaging to your life, and may, compromise your relationships and your mental health and all that sort of shit, And stick in a word for me anyway, right? I'm thinking of society at large here.
Yeah, Eileen, how are you? Sorry, I was cycling around the block there for a few hours and I spotted you going in. It's a few years since I left Today FM there in Marconi House, but I'm pretty sure I left a few bits behind in the kitchen. Some porridge, a piece of dried hake, a pouch of spirulina and a pair of cycling shorts. quite worn around the crotch area. Joke. Like very worn, quite a large hole. Would you take a look for me and let me know if I can collect them? Thanks, Eileen. Good luck.
And brand new comedy every week on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. And you can contact me directly if you want to talk to me. MarioRosenstock@gmail.com. I read them all, and some of your emails are absolutely fascinating. And some of them are short, some of them are long, but I read them all. And they can be pertaining to anything. They can be about the podcast, they can be about guests that you'd like to see on, they can be about comedy, new ideas for characters, they could be compliments, they could be constructive criticisms. I read them all and I get back to them all. They could be about my new tour, which is starting on October 3rd and 4th, sold out in Ennis, and continuing into the Gaiety Theatre on 16th, 17th, 18th of October in the Gaiety Theatre and around Ireland. Or you might want to hire me. Maybe you're a huge American multinational and you want to give me loads of money to come down and do a corporate for you. And I do them. I do all of that. And I read all of those, especially the ones which offer me money. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, deluxebathrooms.ie. Their big blowout sale is now extended to September 7th. Transform your bathroom for less. Upgrading your bathroom doesn't have to be expensive. Why not capitalise on these amazing offers while they last? You can easily transform your bathroom into one you've always dreamed of. So why not visit their amazing showrooms and take the first step towards designing a bathroom you'll never want to leave. They're located in Dundalk Retail Park and Eastgate Retail Park, Little Island, Cork. Make your dream bathroom a reality with Deluxe Bathrooms. They're playing an absolute stormer this year. All their ads are on Today FM. Ian Dempsey voicing them, of course. And wonderful products they have. And they're playing a blinder. And they've been wonderful for the podcast industry and indeed for the Mario Rosenstock podcast. So, to the main event. Eileen Magnier, former RTE Northwest correspondent, is standing by and ready to report here into the Mario Rosenstock podcast. It was a lovely article in the Irish Independent written by Eileen herself that prompted me to invite her onto the podcast. And so we started there.
So, Eileen, I was thanks for being on the podcast.
No bother.
Yeah, and great. I read your article a couple of weeks ago in the Independent. And I suppose it one of the themes of your article was that life is short and you've got to grasp it while you're young and able and fit, you know. And I was reminding myself of, in the article, of when you started in RTE as a reporter, correspondent and all that. And it was about 1985. And I remember watching Reeling in the Years the other night, right? Which is permanently on RTE.
Am I on it?
No, not this. It's not to do with you, but it reminded me of your story. And it was just the last part of this episode was Mary Black singing As I Leave Behind Nadine. And it's all about emigration. And it's all about all these young, healthy, but disillusioned Irish people getting on an Aer Lingus plane and leaving Ireland. And it was 1985 was a time when lots and lots of people were leaving Ireland because they had literally no other option. Now, things have changed incredibly over the last 40 years, but that was when you started.
Yeah, I remember going on the boat. I was working with Pat Kenny at the time, and I went over on the boat from Holyhead and went on the train to London. And my own brother and sister at the time had emigrated. They were living around Willesden or someplace like that.
Yeah.
But I went on the train with the Marantz, the tape recorder. I think it was even the heavier one then. And just interviewed people on the boat and on the train. And it was just it was heartbreaking because most of the ones that were on the trains and heading for London didn't have any great educational qualifications. They were all going looking for work in the buildings. Like emigration now is completely different. But I suppose I felt I was lucky at the time. I had a job. I was able to come back and work here. But as I say, there was 4 kids in our house and 2 of them emigrated and went to London at the time. Yeah.
And then you said a lot of them were relatively unskilled.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, right, I was lucky enough to be able to go to university, right? So I was in Trinity, but it was in the late 80s. So like at that time we had this thing called the milk round. Do you remember the milk round?
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't.
Bottles in the morning.
Well, no, the milk round in relation to college.
Oh, no.
Did you ever hear of that?
No.
So the milk round was this thing, right, whereby in 1988, 1989, 1990, these big companies, financial companies and economics companies would come over from England especially, and they would pick the best of the crop of the Irish, graduates, and they'd offer them this enormous sums of money, like 35,000 a year. Nobody had ever heard of 35,000 a year to start. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And this was called the milk round, but it was emblematic of how the best and brightest from Ireland were being hoovered up. Yeah. Now, of course, many times the best and brightest from Ireland are staying here because they can earn very high wages here, you know. But again, it was that thing. So you had a direct impact of...
Yeah, absolutely. I was the only one in our house that went to university. So I went to UCD and started working in newspapers and then went into RTE. But as I say, my younger brother and sister, they ended up taking the boat, as we used to say at the time.
Yeah. And so you joined RTE around 1985 and you became the Northwestern correspondent after a couple of years?
Yeah, it was the end of 89 I was made the Northwest correspondent. Tommy Gorman at the time.
God bless him.
Yeah. Tommy went to Brussels and Eamon Lawler was the European correspondent at the time. He wanted to see would he come home. So the deal was Eamon would come home for 9 months, Tommy would go to Brussels for 9 months, and I'd go to Sligo for 9 months, and I ended up staying there for over 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, we all kind of clicked into place, and it worked out grand in the end.
Yeah,
But
Tommy, Tommy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, greatly respected in the journalism.
Absolutely. Yeah, taken too soon.
Taken too soon. Roy, what about the kids, Roy? What about the kids? I don't know about the kids, Tommy. I don't care about the kids. I want to play for my country. Yeah. Remember that. Yeah. And so, what is? First of all, what is the Northwestern correspondent? What area does that cover?
Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim was the core area, but then you could be pulled anywhere. You could be pulled into the north, down to Galway, Mayo, covering for colleagues if they're off. But that was your core area, and it ended up actually an awful lot of the work was in Donegal. Just everything seemed to be happening up.
Really?
Oh yeah, good, bad, and whatever. Great people. I used to love going up there. The only thing was the driving.
Yeah,
long journey.
It is because when I do gigs in Donegal, it's like 4.5 to 5 hours to get up there.
Yeah,
and there's no train out of Donegal.
No. There is not, and they'd be ringing me in the newsroom like in the early days, say, do the story now up in Killybegs and will you be back for lunchtime? And no, it's like 100 miles away, whatever,
I know.
They just didn't have concept of how far it was in the state of some of the roads.
And just when you talked about covering for Galway there, I remember I'm Jim Fahey.
Yeah,
Jim Fahey, Jim Fahey, Salt Hill, County Galway.
Fantastic colleague, Jim. He was, I loved him. He was brilliant. He worked so hard, and he had this whole idea, like the community. We were representing the people, and I really liked that idea that the regional correspondent was there to represent the people and reflect what the people were doing. That was our job, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
And of course, the reason I mentioned really in the years, of course, is because it was such a different time. In the sense that journalistically and broadcastingly, because of developments in technology, etc. I mean, back then, of course, you would have had no mobile phones.
Oh, I did.
You had a mobile?
I had a brick.
A brick thing?
I had the huge brick thing that you plug into the car. They called it mobile, but you'd be hauling it out of the car and bring it into the house and then plug it back in. And I still have the same number, except there's a 2 in front of it.
Go away. Was it an 088?
087. It was 088, I think, but it's 087 and begins with 2 then. 555.
Wow.
Like it's gas. Yeah. No, I did. I felt chuffed with myself. There was I, a young one heading off with a mobile phone.
Yeah. And you were working for RTE, of course. And was it hard? Is it hard? I mean, can you?
Yeah, I was actually the first woman correspondent.
Yeah,
it's weird when you look back and think, God,
trailblazer.
Yeah, I know. But I didn't see it that way. I saw it as a great challenge. Like I'm from Kilkenny originally, so I didn't really want to be staying in Dublin. I wanted to get back out down the country. That's what I liked. But it was tough. There were long days. The technology was way different. Like I started with typewriters. Then we did have PCs, that kind of thing. But like if you had to go a distance to do a story, you had to come back to base to edit it. So it may not get out till the next day back in those days. Yeah. Nowadays, like you're going off and you're editing it all in the laptop and whoosh, if you have a good Wi-Fi signal, it's back in Dublin very, very quickly. Huge difference. But then there's more demands because of the technological advances, because you have to do all the online stuff as well as the TV and the radio, so you're being pulled all different ways,
And tell me some of the big stories that you had to cover during your stint.
I suppose in Donegal we did a lot of tragedy. A lot of tragedy. We had the first big tragedy, I think, was when the Carrickatine sank. It was a fishing vessel, went down off Greencastle. 6 men on board, never found. We were up there for a week, I think, and it was just horrendous being in that community and what they were going through. then we had that awful car crash up around Buncrana, 10 people killed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 9 young men in one car, an elderly man in another, and all wiped out. And we've had a few with big numbers like that.
I know you're a professional and you have to be a professional. Does stuff like that affect you?
Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, you'd want to be a stone not to affect you. And I suppose as you got older and as I had children, it would affect you even more. Like I remember after one of the big crashes having conversations with my children saying, I've covered 10 funerals this week and I don't want to be that mother covering another funeral. Because you're seeing these lovely young people who are going out to enjoy themselves for a night and ending up dead, and it's just horrendous. So it does affect you, absolutely affects you, you know.
And 39 years in RTE?
Yeah, near enough. Yeah, I think it was about that. It was, yeah, counting probation and stuff like that.
Yeah. And did RTE change in that time, do you think, over those years?
It did. I mean, there was lots of programme changes as they tried to evolve with programmes. I wasn't involved so much. I wouldn't have been involved in the politics back in Dublin, and I loved the freedom of that. And we had a great band of colleagues in the regions. But things did change for us as well in terms of the technology and the programmes that you were servicing all the time. You know, you want to get me now on something controversial, don't you? Isn't that what you're going for?
Probably, yeah. Well, you don't have to give it to me. I'll get it out of you some other way. I'll do a funny voice of you or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anyone has ever done me, have they?
I'm not so sure. No, I'm not so sure. I mean, we would have done pastiches of people like you from the West, the correspondents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Kieran Malooly was another one.
And Pascal.
And Pascal, Pascal, he's great. Oh dear.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is, I mean, I'm not really trying to get you to say something controversial, but what I mean is that, like, okay, journalism has changed in the last 40 years, all right? Like, so I'm not mentioning any names because I don't have to, right? But I will be often rung by a journalist and they'll go, hey, Mario, can you do me up 2,000 words, please, on your favourite Christmas present? And I'm kind of going, sorry, you're asking me to write your article for you, and how much am I getting paid for this? And they laugh. Nothing, of course. So I'm doing your job for you and all this. So sometimes I get the impression that journalism, because maybe it's not as well funded anymore, that people aren't willing to spend as much money on reporters on the beat, that they're not willing to invest in the infrastructure of your organisation, that reporting and journalism has, at its worst, turned into a kind of a cut and paste thing. Now, at its best, it's still really good, but at its worst, it's kind of a cut and paste, and maybe even an avenue for some people to move on to something else.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I saw that when I retired and I did 1 or 2 interviews, and then I saw bits of them being lifted from here, there and everywhere and put together and given the impression that I had spoken to them, but I hadn't. And I've seen that with other things. I'm a bit more conscious of it now, but I suppose I was lucky. I was working in public service broadcasting. It is funded. We were reasonably well paid, and we were all solid journalists with a very strong ethic. I think that we have to have the truth out there. There was no cut and paste with us, I can tell you. It was all from the horse's mouth. I met an American on a holiday once, and he was asking what was I doing, and I told him I was a journalist. And he says to me, well, who tells you what to say? And I said, well, what do you mean, who tells me what to say? Well, someone must tell you what line to take. I said, no, I just tell the truth. I couldn't get over it. Like, his concept of media was that there was someone up here and they dictated the slant that everybody took on a story. But that never happened in my career. No,
it didn't. But you really raised one of the most interesting subjects of our day. And that is, I mean, harkening back to what you said there about the American, it was interesting that it came from an American, because some people would argue that there isn't such a thing really as public broadcasting in America as such, that all broadcasting is commercial.
Yeah.
Now, there is such thing as public broadcasting, very well defined in this part of the world, BBC and RTE and all that sort of stuff. But it does raise an interesting point, because when I meant, did RTE change? Journalism has changed in a way, because, again, and I'm not trying to be provocative here, and you can deal with this whatever you want of it, but somebody told me recently, right, they were going on RTE and it wasn't threatened. They weren't threatened or anything, of course, in any way. But they were sort of asked before they went into the interview, listen, don't mention Gaza.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I will say that this is anecdotal.
Yeah.
and perhaps even apocryphal, so I can't prove it. But it sounds to me like something that I would believe. And that is not because the person was being censored. It was because they just didn't want any hassle.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
And that is a form of censorship because that is a form of chilling.
Yeah.
There's a chilling effect of all that.
Yeah.
Let us not mention subject X, because subject X will attract the ire of organisation lobby group Y. And we just don't need that. And so the way what I'm saying, Eileen, is that RTE, and this is about specifically RTE, and to a certain extent BBC as well, RTE is in a vulnerable position in the last while. Do you understand?
No doubt, yeah.
And so their financial problems have been well documented. And when you are financially vulnerable, you are therefore financially dependent. When you are dependent, you are more likely to kowtow or at least to be receptive towards pressure from the people who are responsible for your purse strings. Yeah, you know what I mean. I think there has been a bit of that now.
Yeah, I didn't work in the radio programmes ends of things, like I wouldn't be commissioning people to come on programmes or anything like that. But I can see how that could happen, and of course, like when all that business happened, the impact on the rest of us, we kind of felt, oh no, this is terrible. This whole funding thing and all the different controversies, and the morale just went down. And it was very hard for people to go out and, be as proud of the organisation as they used to be, because, we weren't very happy with what was going on there at all. We weren't happy at all. I have to say, in the regions, people were very nice to us, because they kind of know you one-to-one, and they know, well, she's decent enough sort, I never personally got any abuse, but I know colleagues in Dublin and on the road did get abuse from people when all that controversy was going on, and you can see how it could happen, and a lot of people would have the impression that all of us were really well paid and milking the system and all that kind of thing, which wasn't the reality at all, certainly at my end of things,
Absolutely. Well,
two different layers completely.
Well, and don't forget as well, I worked in RTE as well, Eileen. I was on Glenroe, right? So I was being paid by RTE when my time in Glenroe, and I remember I was younger, and I'd be in McDonald's or something, and people would be looking over at me going, what's he doing in McDonald's? He must be absolutely loaded. Can he not afford proper food? All those RTE heads are loaded.
I know. Absolutely, but we're not.
Absolutely not, no. The other thing that happened was a news story, the Creeslough.
Yeah.
Tell me about, again, just remind our listeners.
That was, I think, that was just horrendous. It was a Friday afternoon, and word started coming through. There was a fire, and it looked like a petrol station up in Creeslough. So I started making a few calls and hit the road fairly quickly because it sounded bad. And I drove, now it was a long drive Friday evening, and I got up there about 8 o'clock, and the place was just... the scene was horrendous. It was starting to get dark, and there was sirens, and there was ambulances and JCBs and everything all over the place. And I would know some of the people up there, and we're chatting to some of them, and they said it is not good. And that night we knew how many people were killed, but we couldn't go with it. They couldn't confirm it, but we kind of had a very good idea this was just horrendous. So we were there.
And this is part of the respect for your fact checking.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not first in, it's get it right rather than be first.
Because, I mean, there's going to be relations all over the world who'll be saying, what's going on in Creeslough? And, some people want to get the names out there quickly. I said, I'm not putting out any names until the families all know. And that was always a policy we had. You don't broadcast any names till the families know. And I stuck to my guns on that. I wasn't going anywhere with it. But, as the few days unfolded, you could just see everyone was just in total shock at what was going on. And, people were working so hard. Like, I remember that night, the sound, like it was totally silent, all these people standing around the street, and then there was tractors and trailers going out. You'd hear the sound of them, and you'd look, and they were just, the trailers filled with rubble, because they were pulling the rubble out to try and get the people out. It was just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And that night, we drove back into Letterkenny to, or was it the next night? No, it was the next night. I remember driving back into Letterkenny in the car, and the tears just coming down my face, saying there's going to be 10, 11 funerals over the next week. I don't know, can I face that? But I didn't do one of them. I didn't do the first, but I did the rest. And you kind of just get back into work mode then and say, right, this is this person who's died, their family are all around them, their family are heartbroken, and you just have to do as respectful a report as you can and give people a sense of what this lovely person was all about, you know. And then just at the end of the week you go, that's over. So I think when Creeslough happened, I said to myself, I've done so many of these things, I've covered so many funerals or tragedies, that this is just the last one I ever want to have to do.
It bears heavy burden on you.
Heavy burden.
You're just a human being yourself.
Yeah.
And it chips away at you.
It chips and chips and chips away, and you just get sad, you know, and so you have to make an effort to get yourself out of that sadness because you're absorbing the sadness of other people, you know. I mean, I don't know, some people can come in, do it and walk away. I found it hard to do that, you know, because I knew I'd be going back up there and I have a relationship with those people. Like Father John Joe Duffy was just an incredible man, and I knew him from other places before, and you know, you just have such respect for those people that you just want to, you know, do as good a job as you can.
And I suppose this may have been an earlier indicator that maybe you were going to say, I need to wrap it up here.
Yeah. Because as I say, you know, a couple of years earlier, I'd applied for the redundancy, didn't get it. Then this happened, and I thought, you know, this is a sign, you know. But in between that, my sister and my aunt had died, and a couple of my cousins, and I kind of was...
Your sister and your aunt particularly were close to you.
Very, very close. And they died within a few months of each other, and I kind of felt, have to find a way out now because I have to start... I kind of went after my aunt died, and just after Teresa had died, I suppose you're going, oh Lord. And I remember feeling very low and saying, I decided I need things to look forward to. So I set a rule for myself. Every month I'm going to have something to look forward to, just to pick myself up. It can be a little thing like going to a play or, you know, going on a day trip somewhere, or it can be a big holiday. And I just gradually kind of built myself back up and up and up again. But you just have to kind of think about the head, you know. Yeah. Think about the head. And Creeslough just...
Yeah, I understand. And this was the warning to you that life is short and you must live life.
Yeah.
And that's what this podcast is actually mainly going to be about now that we've covered all the difficult, controversial Eileen Magnier years. And she sidestepped all the difficult questions perfectly. No, you didn't. We concentrate on the best part of the podcast, or the most one. That's why you're here as well, because world is changing, life is changing, professional life is changing, our lifespans are changing, our health profile is changing. And for example, you 40 years in RTE, and I look at you now and you look great and you look so fresh-faced and young looking, and you don't look like a person who's retired. You look like, but you have a huge fun retirement and ahead of you and with you. And this is what I read in the article, that you wanted to give yourself things to look forward to, and you know, you wanted to do all the things that you would like to do. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I just kind of felt, there's so much out there, you know, there's so many things to do. I've always loved to travel, so I've just kind of upped my game on the travelling, and I had a bucket list of things I wanted to do, and so I knocked off the Norwegian fjords on Iceland on a cruise.
I've seen that on TV. It looks amazing.
It's gorgeous,
because everybody associates cruises with being hot and going to hot places, but I've always been fascinated by these little northern ones.
Oh yeah,
or the Antarctic ones.
Yeah, and I want to do Alaska. I love to do that. I mean, I'm not too bothered with the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
It's like I've been to...
They're great, I'd say.
I can imagine, if you just want to have a fun thing, But I love to, get into these little out-of-the-way places in Norway and Iceland and even Reykjavik, and just getting off and going to the Shark Museum and driving through a lava field and seeing the beautiful waterfalls. It's just, it's so stimulating and interesting, you know.
Yeah.
And we did Australia again because my son was out there and he said he was coming home. So we went out again and made the most of that. Did Melbourne, went up to the Great Barrier Reef. It was just fabulous.
Yeah. And you've pursued history again.
Yeah,
so history is a love of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When you say history now, that's a fairly big subject.
It is big. So my original, like when I went to college first, I did history and politics.
Yeah.
I love family history.
What's family history?
So genealogy, I did. I would have done been working on my own family tree for years and years.
Okay.
It's a never-ending project. But I was up in the National Archives once, must be about 11 years ago or so, and I saw this ad for a Master's in History of Family, Dr. Ciara Brannock in UL. So I signed up for it. I was working at the time, but it was fascinating. Like, it was about crime, emigration, all sorts of things to do with family and family structure. And I did my Master's on bigamists.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I focused in on
Irish bigamists? Okay.
in the mid-1800s who were transported to Australia.
Yeah,
These are
because of their criminals.
Caught. Yeah,
convicts.
They were criminals. Yeah, they were caught for bigamy and sent off to Australia.
Yeah.
So
caught for bigamy.
Yeah. Now, it was hard enough.
Would they not be
get
congratulated and told you're a great fella?
Not the poor wives that were left behind, struggling and all that. There were a few women bigamists as well, but not too many.
Okay.
It was mostly men.
Yeah.
But anyway,
bigamisters,
yes. So I did that, and that was great fun. And I was thinking of doing a PhD, but I don't know if I'll have the energy to do all that, you know. But I'll think about it again anyway. But I'm involved in the...
When you say bigamy, BI denotes two. But
yes.
Is it kind of person? Was there some people married more than two?
Oh God,
multiples.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, see, it was so easy back then without the internet and without records like registration. Civil registration didn't come into the 1860s, so you had people, particularly people who were mobile, like soldiers, farm labourers, moving from town to town. I mean, you could be married here and 5 miles down the road have another family, and they'd be none the wiser. You know, it was crazy stuff. But since I retired then, I've always been a member of the Kilkenny Archaeological Society, but I got roped into the editorial board of their annual publication, so I have to write something for them. So I found this great story of this lad who was Irish but grew up in Italy, and he was a con man in around the 1850s as well, and he was a bigamist, but he married a woman in England, then he moved to Sligo. No, he married 2 in England, 1 in Sligo, and then came to Kilkenny.
When was this now?
Back in the 1850s. 50s, and he'd marry somebody, take all their money and do a runner, and he got away with it a good few times until he set up a fake conference on Italy in London. And the editor of the newspaper over there realised he's not Italian, he has a Cork accent. And they went investigating and found there was no Italian conference. Your man was paying him a guinea an article. There was no conference, there was no reports, and he uncovered the whole story of this guy who'd been going all around England and Ireland, marrying people, codding them into thinking he was a doctor, a lecturer, a journalist.
Brilliant.
And he ended up in prison.
If only Joe Duffy was alive in the 1850s. Good afternoon to you. Bigamy. The conference. He said he was from... He's a Cork accent.
Cork accent, I know. And he says he's from Milan.
Well, that's fantastic. And also this thing that's always fascinated me. I'm a big walker, right? I don't drive a car. I'm a big walker. No, I've actually taken 16 lessons, and I'm going to take my test soon. But I love walking, and because walking, not only do I love walking, I've actually tried to read about walking and find out about walking, why walking is so good.
Yeah.
And all the things from the doctor and everything about walking being way better than running. It's your body understands walking much better than running. Running is a stress on your body. It creates cortisol and pressure. Walking is something that our body and our brain and our hormones completely understand, and so it's better for you in terms of your joints and everything and all that sort of stuff. It keeps you fit. Yeah. It helps you to keep weight off. But more than anything else, it leads to an amazing spike in creativity in your mind. You know, you just get lost in the walk and you just dream up things. The amount of sketches I come up with when I'm just walking. Also, walking with somebody is really nice. And I read about this idea that when 2 friends are walking together, they have much more better conversations. And it's because they're not facing each other. You're both facing out, walking in the same direction, and your mind is working in a you're not concentrating on looking at the other person and wondering what they're thinking.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So you have better conversations when you walk, and your brain is more creative. But you love walking as well, and you did this thing that I've never done, but I suppose I will. The bloody Camino.
Yeah.
Sick of hearing about this Camino. Is it any good?
It is fabulous. Now, we did one, myself and my husband TJ, a few years ago. We thought this looks really lovely and scenic. It was the northern route from San Sebastian to Bilbao.
Yeah.
So we go to San Sebastian, some lovely wine and food and everything, then head off walking. And the first day was gorgeous. But then the bloody hills after that, up and down, and it rained an awful lot. And so we were slip sliding through the mud. So that wasn't as great an experience. The Portuguese one, that was fabulous because it's largely flat. There's some hills towards the end. We went from Porto.
What is a Camino? Is it a religious walk?
You see, it was a religious pilgrimage. People in medieval times would go from all over Europe.
Okay, and South America.
And end up in Santiago de Compostela where the tomb of St. James was. Or is. So that's the focal point. You want to end up there.
Santiago, yeah. Okay.
Santiago, yeah. So in Spain.
What part of Spain?
It's kind of western Spain.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Now, a lot of people, I'm not religious at all, actually, but I find it kind of, it was really good for the head, kind of in a spiritual, and creative sort of a way, a calming kind of a way, but I didn't do it for religious reasons. And so many different kinds of people. You'd love it. You'd have great crack talking to all the different people because you meet so many different interesting kind of people from all over the world. So give me an example.
What do you do in a day now? How long do you walk?
Now, a lot of people will do stay in the hostels. No way, sorry, not for me, too old. So you book yourself a nice little hotel or guest house. You get up in the morning, you get your bag collected.
Hostel's roughing it.
Yeah. I have to have my own shower.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Your bag is collected and it's brought to your next stop. So I planned this all out ahead. So we did 13 days walking. So you get up, hit the road about 8:30, walk an average of 23 kilometres a day.
Okay, so that's about 15 miles.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's when you're out in nature, you see, it's different. It's lovely. And you're just enjoying everything that's around you. You're starting conversations and then you'll move on, you'll talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
You stop for a coffee.
Yeah.
And then you get to wherever you're staying about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Nice little glass of wine, put the feet up for a while, have a bit of dinner, chat to people, be in bed early, and then off the next morning.
That sounds cool.
It is lovely.
Yeah.
You should do it.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of people from all over the world doing this, you know.
And do you meet people who'll wreck your head now? Or do you meet, as you say, all sorts of people who are...
Yeah.
Because I can't stand zealots.
Yeah.
And what I mean by zealots is people who are trying to tell you all the time about how this changed their life and you have to do this. And do you know that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I didn't meet anyone like that.
Okay.
No, we just met. If anyone was a bit of a head wreck, you just kind of
walk on. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't stop head wreck. I mean, Tony, I have to do. I have an appointment with Santiago de Compostela there. I'll see you around, and good luck with the whatever you were at that I have no interest in remembering.
No, we met great people. Didn't meet.
Yeah. So you won't find that many people scrolling on Instagram all day on the walk.
Oh no. And that was a great thing because I hate when you go someplace and people are just on their phones all the time and they're not enjoying the experience, what they're doing, like concerts or matches or anything like that. There was a few younger people now and they'd be doing the poses and stuff, but very, very few.
Yeah,
actually on their phones. You'd be walking down the street here, and I don't know how people don't kill themselves walking into poles with their phones on the Camino. You just don't I as I said, I had a list of music, a playlist of music ready just in case. Never listened to it once.
Soaked it all up.
Yeah, listen to the birds. And
how long did you do it for?
13 days walking. 280k.
Yeah. And was that the right amount for you?
No, it was perfect. Yeah.
How were your legs and your body after that?
No blisters, no nothing. Everything was grand. Yeah. Now, as I say, like yourself, I'd be walking a lot anyway.
Yeah.
Go to the gym a bit.
Sure.
Do different classes.
Can you do 5-star Camino? Like stay in really nice places?
You could, yes, you could. Now
I'd be a bit of a sucker for my hotels now.
The Parador hotels, that's a chain
right.
of all castles, and we stayed in one of them once and it was lovely, yeah. So you could, and actually a friend of mine told me her husband will only do the Camino on a particular one that brings you through all the vineyards.
Oh, yeah. Now you're talking.
Because
I do love red wine.
Yeah. So, and in the Portuguese, when you go through the Douro region and then the Albarino region, so
Yeah.
you get to sample different ones.
Yeah,
you
very
know?
good.
Yeah.
And it's just back to history again, actually, because it just reminded me that I'm just reading up about the what's happening in America at the moment, or about history. History is history, but a bit like the world that you inhabited for 40 years, we deal in, you try to deal in fact, and you try to deal in the truth. But I was just reading there in the last 2 days that Trump and his administration are trying to revise, put a revisionist slant on all the museums and the history that's going on in the museums. So, for example, in the Smithsonian in the United States, in Washington, he wants to have this thing that President Trump's first and second impeachment, he wants to erase it so that it's not there anymore. Or the emphasis that slavery was really, really bad. I mean, how bad was it? He said in the Truth Social there yesterday, And so they want to kind of revise history. So again, history, you're in an area that...
Like that's scary, isn't it? I think that is scary.
It's desperately scary.
That sort of thing would be happening. We were in England recently and we went to the British Museum and a couple of other museums over there, and it's interesting that they're kind of re-looking at, we'll say, where their different artefacts came from and trying to own up to the fact that a lot of those things were stolen, that whole movement is very interesting. But like literally erasing history, I'd find that just shocking.
Yeah. This is what we're going through, and but also crossing over with your world as well about the importance of funding journalism and funding public journalism. I mean, he is actively defunding, things like public journalism and the NPR, the National Public Radio, and all that.
Challenging the universities and what they're doing.
Challenging the universities and trying to change, in a sense, their curriculum.
Yeah.
And he's interfacing them in a way that they're going to have to check with him if they want to put this guy on or say this and this sort of stuff. So, we haven't reached this state in Ireland yet.
Well, I hope we never do.
Yeah. Blood pressure was another thing you and I talked about just before you came on, because I just for my listeners, I've always had great blood pressure, and I've always been very proud of it. And I've always been very healthy and played tennis and all that, even though I loved drinking too much in my 20s and 30s and even my 40s. And I used to smoke 20 a day as well, up to the age of 35. And I gave up nearly 20 years ago, no smokes. So my blood pressure's always been good, luckily. Until I went to the doctor there last year, and he went, "Your blood pressure's terrible." And I went, "You're joking." And I went, "It couldn't be, because it's always been great, 120/80 and all this sort of stuff." And he went, "Well, check with your family." And I asked my mother, and she went, "Yep, that's me." And I went, "Oh my God, right. So it's genetics."
Yeah.
So the same thing happened to you, that you had high blood pressure as well?
I did, but I think it was stress related.
Yeah.
The doctor signed me off for a while.
You had to go to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Explain to me your day."
Yeah.
So,
well, no, he said, "Tell me about last week and the previous week, like what you do."
Go on, tell me what you told him.
Oh God, I can't remember, but I must have been here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
You see, that you would have days where you might be up at 7, you're off, drive 200 kilometres, do a story, come back, or maybe not come back, and then go on to something else. So I was everywhere. It had been a particularly busy week, and the blood pressure was haywire. Yeah. I was monitored myself at the time, and then they gave me the 24-hour one, and it was going up and down. So we realised that the work, when I was off, it had come down, but then when I was working, it would go back up again. Yeah. So there is that. Now I know what you're saying about the genes, but I at the moment, it's fine. It's grand. Since I finished work, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I was only since I went back to the doctor. He says, "God, you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
You look different."
That's the thing you said in the article that you said in the article.
No,
if you put in Eileen Magnier into Google, and you'll see the Irish Independent article coming up. That's why Eileen's on the podcast. But yes, because the doctor said, because your health has improved dramatically.
Oh, absolutely.
Since you've retired.
Yes, yeah.
Because back in the 80s and the 70s, you'd say, "Did you hear John retired? John, the bank manager down at number 59. Oh, he retired." And then 2 days later, "John's dead." Yeah. Collapsed on the golf course.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
And you don't want to be the one that retires and then, you're gone.
Yeah.
So the problem I suppose that I had was when I was working, it was so intense at times, you didn't have time to exercise. You'd come home, you'd be wrecked, I can't go for a walk. And John, the cameraman I worked with, used to say, we're dashboard dining again. So you'd be going off somewhere, you just grab a sandwich from a garage and a cup of coffee and maybe a bar or something.
Yeah.
Not good for you, you know.
I know.
So now, not having to work, you have more control over your life, and so you walk every day, go to the gym, and doing some great exercise classes and things like that, just to keep myself fit. Because I did a pre-retirement course, and they were emphasising.
What's that?
It was a very good one that RTE did. They do them regularly, and it's great. It kind of helps you with, we'll say, if you have financial planning to do, and then get your head around what choices you might have to make in your life. Like, will you change from 2 cars down to 1 car? And everyone says, no, you have to have your independence. Will you travel? Will you do this? Will you do the other? But there was a brilliant dietitian on it, and she was talking about food and having your protein, and also about the importance of keeping your strength. And, you know, as you get older, the dangers of falls, and if your muscles are weak or whatever, you know, you're not going to get yourself back up again, and you chances are you'll die sooner, you know. So she was very strong on strength and building up your strength. So I do a class every week that Sligo Sports Partnership run, and it's brilliant. Stronger for Longer, that's what it's called, and that's what it's all about. So it's all resistance training and a bit of weights and this, that and the other, and it's great fun. Yeah. There's loads of people doing it.
Yeah. And the young people, younger people should do it as well.
Yeah.
Because you're dead right about the strength and the protein and everything, right? Because when this concept, people say little old man or little old lady. Yeah. Do you remember the other expression?
Don't let the old woman in.
Yeah.
In your case, don't let the old man in.
Exactly. Exactly. But when you say little old man or little old lady, and you go, why are they little? It's because their muscle has disappeared.
Yeah.
And the muscle around their skeleton has gone. Yeah. And so they've kind of crumpled.
Yeah.
So you need to keep your muscle going.
Yeah.
And protein and weight resistance.
Yep.
So that I remember I had a trainer, and he went, look, it's called, again, he says it's called functional training, and it's so that when you're 85, you can actually go to the toilet yourself without somebody having to help you. You know, and that's not as like daft as it sounds, considering there are loads of people in their 20s and 30s who are incapacitated as well, unfortunately. But we must learn to be able to just get around, be mobile ourselves, you know.
Yeah. Use it or lose it.
So did you get a nice response to this article?
I got a lovely response. And, from a lot of people who are retired already. One woman said to me, thanks for reminding me. I'm going to up my game again, like when Polo Conila asked me about writing it, he was saying, you might just inspire somebody else who wouldn't have the courage to get up and go and do this bit of travelling, that might say, no. But yeah, really positive reaction from everybody, I have to say.
Good.
Very nice, yeah.
What kind of travelling would you like to do in the future that you haven't done? And just to whet your appetite, the thing I really want to do is the sleepover trains.
Oh, right.
Those long journeys. I'd love to go from Paris to Rome on the sleepover train, that you wake up and you're in the place that that kind of
Lovely,
thing. Or dining on a train in a nice carriage, sleeping in a nice bed on a train, or going across, kind of the Orient Express
kind of idea.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be more overnight trains in Europe over the next couple of years. There's a few of them planned. Cambodia and Vietnam are the main ones on the list. Top of the list at the moment. I don't know, I'm just fascinated by the history of it and the War,
Do you mean the recent history?
Well, actually, I've been recently watching a thing about the Vietnam War, and it's just
is it Ken Burns' thing?
Yeah, no, I forget who.
Yeah, because Ken Burns is.
It's a 10-part series.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
Ken Burns.
Maybe it is. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. But even further back, like say in Cambodia and Angkor Wat and all that sort of history there, I'd love to do that. I'd be interested in going to Japan as well. And some friends in Sligo were thinking of an Africa trip. One of my friends has a big birthday coming up, and she said, I'd love to go back to Africa. So Kenya or South Africa, Zimbabwe, what's the real exotic? Zanzibar.
Oh,
yeah,
Zanzibar.
Just like to flake out at the end of it.
Yeah, that's on the eastern edge of Africa. Yeah, Tanzania.
Yeah. But then lots of things closer to home as well. I've never been to Berlin. I want to do Berlin.
Yeah.
And little things. I haven't been to Farmley here in Dublin.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Well, none of us have been to anywhere in Dublin. The place we live in, we've never
done a
been.
few, yeah, but yeah, I suppose I'm not. It's a long time since I lived here.
Yeah,
but
I've never been into the Book of Kells, and I was in Trinity for 4 years.
No excuse there. Yeah. So there's loads of things on our doorsteps as well. You know.
Eileen, thank you very much for coming in and talking to me on the podcast about your very interesting career, 40 years in RTE. But really, what was interesting was this new phenomenon of people. Their life just starts all over again.
Yeah.
40 years working, and your life is just beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's not. It is really brilliant these days. I mean, again, just back in the 70s, you'd see a television program where a fella, or drama or something, and a fellow would go, or a vox pop on the street, and you go, "So what age are you?" And you go, 40 years of age.
Yeah.
Ah, God love you, love. 40 years of age. Well, you know what they say, life begins at 40. Yeah. And of course, it was a patronising way of saying you're practically done.
Done. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now, 60, 65, I mean, Jesus, it's nothing.
It's
anymore.
No, it isn't.
Nothing.
My father died at 56, so I remember when I got to 56 saying, every year now is a bonus, you know, and I'm just going to make the most of it. And after my sister Teresa died, and my aunt, and they just loved travelling, I said, well, I'm just going to keep going now and go to the places that they would have liked to go and places I want to go myself. Because when you get the chance, and if you're healthy enough, it's sinful not to do it.
Yeah, it is.
You know, if you can afford it, of course. I mean, I suppose I'm lucky. I have a pension. I'm okay. Yeah. Some people won't be in as, and I don't want to rub people's noses in it because some people can't, or for various reasons can't.
No, but if you go down that road, though, Eileen, we'll end up. If you get end that road, you'll go down. Sorry, I'm sorry for saying I have a car.
Yeah, no.
Some people out there don't have cars. I'm sorry for saying I have 2 legs. I know people out there only have no legs. Some legs, 1 leg. You know, so you end up playing the poor man's completely, right? Yeah. So it's all about sucking the marrow out of life and playing the cards that you've dealt, and you're lucky to have a pension and lucky to have a good job. Yes, fair enough, but now you're making the most of your life.
Worked hard for it, you know.
Exactly, of course, worked hard.
Yeah, make the most of it now. And as I say, the key thing is now keep the health and just go for it.
And if you're out there on the streets walking and listening to the Mario Rosenstock podcast, listen to Eileen. You know, she's got the right idea there. She's walking and she's getting it done, and she's going all over the world.
Yeah, and I'm looking 10 years younger, aren't I?
And she's looking 10 years younger, and she's doing no correspondence with any stupid radio or TV station. Eileen Magnier, not corresponding with anybody. The Camino. Good luck. Eileen, thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Pleasure.
And my thanks to Eileen Magnier for coming in and talking to me on the podcast. My thanks to you, of course, the most important element of this podcast. Please tell one other person about this podcast if you enjoyed it. And of course, thanks to my sponsor, deluxebathrooms.ie. Blowout sale extended to September 7th. Get down there. And I'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye, folks.